Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am one of your hosts, Ashley. This is my lovely co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you today?
I'm doing dandy. Absolutely dandy.
It's a new word to start our show. Nice and dandy.
Have I never used dandy?
I don't think so.
I say that every morning at work. I normally mean it sarcastically, though, because it's morning and I'm at work.
Yeah.
But
anytime you have to go into work, that's like dread. I don't care if you love your job. I don't care if you love your job. It's like dread. Yeah, we wrapped up week 8 of football and we have passed the trade deadline. We're going to get right to it today. We have plenty to talk about. So let's start with all of the trade deadline news. So to kick it off, the Giants trade defensive tackle Leonard Williams to Seattle for a 2024 second and a 2025 fifth. Yeah, sad. I'm surprised that was the only trade they made at the Giants made at the deadline. Sad to see that they've become sellers. It's not what I expected. It's not what I hoped, but it was the right move after the start to this season.
Ask me if it's what I expected.
Is it what you expected?
Yeah. Ask me if Darren Waller's going to play this week.
No, we'll talk about that later. Not going to ask that yet. Your Eagles, they trade defensive tackle Kentavious Street and a conditional 2025 7th to the Falcons for a conditional 24 6th.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, we needed to bring Julio Jones onto the active roster. Mm-hmm. So instead of cutting someone, we made someone give us a pick for him. It's just Howie Roseman being a good GM. It's it's not groundbreaking. It's just simple math.
Yes. The Commanders made 2 trades. They traded defensive end Montez Sweat to the Bears for a 2024 second. And the
Bears
big one...
so stupid.
So silly. Even when you listen to this next one, too. Commanders trade defensive end Chase Young to the Niners for a 2024 third, which, can you explain to me, was a special compensatory pick? I do know that if Chase Young ends up leaving in free agency, the Niners may be able to recoup that third and in the form of like another compensatory pick.
Yeah, the compensatory pick they got was from, I believe, it's one of the ones that like came from D'Amico Ryan's leaving and getting a head coaching gig. Because when a minority gets hired out of your, I think it's front office staff or coaching staff to a GM or head coaching job, then you get a compensatory pick.
Okay, so that's what that special compensatory pick means.
Yeah.
So the Bears pay more for Montez Sweat than the Niners do for Chase Young. Chase Young was kind of the talk of the town towards the end of this week, being on the trade block. There was some concerns about overall health and seems to have sorted that out. The Niners are happy to have him. There's plenty of jokes going around on the internet with Nick Bosa and Chase Young. But yeah, they're sellers too, and they're rebuilding with a new owner who was there for your trust the process.
Yo, talking
about it.
He had a day, man. He had a day. Mm-hmm. There was a really funny tweet that went out, and it was like players traded away from Josh Harris owned teams. First of all, hate that he owns that many teams in pro sports. Really, just kind of wish he would stop buying teams that are rivals of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You stupid idiot moron, sell the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like Montez Sweat, Chase Young, James Harden, PJ Tucker, and then my man Philip with a F, Philip Petrasev, a dude that came over from overseas for the first time after being drafted like 2 years ago. I love that his name is on there because he's comparatively, he's very immaterial compared to the rest of these players. He was a throw-in who literally just got traded again today for cash or something. So just very funny. It was funny.
Chips.
Yeah. I hate Josh Harris.
But yeah, Josh Harris seems to be starting another trust the process moment. They get rid of Chase Young, who was a high recruit coming out, tore his ACL, right? Am I right on that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, tore his ACL, missed some time. But they get rid of him, and they are starting to rebuild. The Cardinals came out and said Josh Dobbs will not be our starter this week. It's either going to be Kyler Murray or Clayton Tune. And everyone's like, weird. So then everyone's like, trade, question mark, like the seagulls from Finding Nemo. Mine. They were like, trade. And then, yeah, he gets traded. Josh Dobbs gets traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Josh Dobbs and a conditional 24/7th. That conditional is from Atlanta to Minnesota for a 2024 6th after what we'll talk about later. Kirk Cousins is out for the season. Rip. Happy for Josh Dobbs, though. Still gets to start.
Yeah.
It's working hard.
Yeah. It's shocking they're 4-4, but here we are.
Yes. Can you read the next one? I need to plug in my computer.
Yes. Vikings traded guard Ezra Cleveland to Jacksonville for a 24 6th. Pretty good player. I guess a little confusing after you trade for Josh Dobbs, but it is what it is. Doug Peterson was live on the Pat McAfee show when that trade was announced. So it was really fun seeing his live reaction. I just love Doug. He's a very goofy guy.
Yeah.
I've said it a billion times, but it's just very fun to watch his facial reactions as Pat McAfee's breaking the news to him. So yeah,
the most confusing part of it for me is that his last name was Cleveland. So I was like, how are they? And it got reading the tweets of the breakdowns, of compensation for the trade got so confusing because they're like, Cleveland gets a new start, and then I'm like, wait, what? I thought it was so, for me, a solid 3 minutes I was confused, and then I figured it out.
For you is the key term there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for me. I'm not speaking for anyone else.
Yeah.
The Browns trade wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions for a 2025 6th. Donovan
Rest in peace, Jameson Williams.
I know. Peoples-Jones' role obviously decreased in Cleveland recently, and he gets a new start with a high-powered passing offense.
And finally, the Packers traded former Super Bowl champion and Eagle great Rasul Douglas and 24 5th to the Bills for a 24 3rd. He was not an Eagle great. He was not great here. It wasn't really his fault.
Oh, okay. Just an Eagle great.
He did it. He was a Super Bowl champ here. He did win a Super Bowl. Yeah, he's heading to the Bills. He's been a really, really good cornerback for the Packers. It was always a scheme thing in Philly, in my opinion, and they used him the right way. The Bills are in desperate need after Kaiir Elam. I was going to say Kaiir Elam has been a healthy scratch, former first round pick, so they needed some depth there. And Rasul Douglas hopes to bring that. So
yeah, and the Bills just needed any help in the secondary.
Yeah,
they lost several people over the last couple of weeks, including Matt Milano. Their defense has struggled. They needed a spark, and hopefully this brings that to them. The big news, middle of the night, 1:30 in the morning.
James Harden traded. Oh, is that not?
Actually,
there were legitimately back-to-back nights of news breaking at 1:30. So I woke up with so many messages and not like I'm Shams or something, but a bunch of notifications of all these tweets. So the first night it was James Harden, and the second night it was Josh McDaniels. Yeah, it was a very confusing couple of mornings, but I guess you weren't talking about James
didn't even technically announce that news yet. So Mike, now you have me confused. Josh McDaniels was fired from the Raiders, head coach Josh McDaniels. They also fired
not the other Josh McDaniels?
No.
Oh, just the head coach.
One.
Okay.
The head coach one. They also fired general manager Dave Ziegler and offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi. Linebacker coach Antonio Pierce will be the interim head coach. Fun facts, McDaniels was signed to a 6-year fully guaranteed contract that still has 4 years left on it. All head coaching contracts are fully guaranteed. The Raiders will have to pay out the rest of that 4 years of his contract. Owner Mark Davis says the changes were made in part from information gathered with veterans in meetings over the past week to learn more about the culture that Josh McDaniels has created in the Raiders organization. My favorite thing that I saw was that Raiders in each game have scored 21 points or less, rushed for less than 100 yards, and recorded at least one turnover. They are the first team to accomplish this feat in their first 8 games since the 1941 Cleveland Rams. Love that.
I didn't even know. I'm going to be honest. Had no idea that the Cleveland Rams were ever a thing. Maybe at one point in my life I did, but
Only because I watched this like really, really long video about the history of every NFL team and like where they moved and where they came and when they became former. Raiders have announced also that they will be benching Jimmy G in favor of rookie quarterback Aiden O'Connell this coming week. So they move on too. They're getting ready to rebuild. The Bears fire running back coach David Walker. Love your tweet. Totally the problem.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
job. You fixed it.
Apparently it was an HR thing, which somehow makes it even worse.
Awesome.
Yeah, unrelated to the earlier season misconduct, that was an HR thing.
Yes.
That we still really haven't gotten a lot
No.
information on. I do want to read this wrong. Well, I do not know where this originated. I'm
Okay.
99.9% sure it's false. But I do think it's hilarious. Like, I'm almost certain it's false. Just assume it's false until someone comes out and says this is real. But this was like it was meant to be like a clip from an article or something that someone posted on Twitter. It says apparently apparently the last straw was when McDaniels, who is well known around the league circles as a guy who goes all out for Halloween, came to the Raiders facility dressed as Mark Davis the day after losing to the Lions on Monday Night Football. Davis seemed to take it in stride at first. He appeared to laugh and even ordered his now trademark P.F. Chang's lunch delivered to Coach McDaniels to complete the look. After the two had eaten, Davis suggested McDaniels read his fortune cookie, which read, "You're fired, hotshot," according to multiple sources who viewed the dessert. Yeah, obviously not real. I read that. That was like one of the first things I read this morning, and I just about lost it. Yeah, so just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It's like headcanon. I choose to believe that's how it went down. That's
how
I want to believe it.
I do want to say I believe it was from PFT commenter. I do think that's where it originated from, but I can't say that with absolute certainty.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So,
Tisa Thompson came out with an investigation. I haven't fully read through it yet, so I don't want to speak much on it. I'm going to quote her tweet here, which said she's from ESPN. ESPN interviewed over 36 current and former Arizona Cardinals employees, many of which said they found their work environment to be abusive and intimidating, in part due to, quote, fear of the owner's unpredictable tirades. Did you happen to read that or
no? This is okay. I saw a little bit of it, but I haven't.
Yep. So I'm not going to comment on it. I'll recommend you read it and gather some information for yourself. I will be doing that later. I just totally forgot to read it before this. An interesting comment I just wanted to note was that Packers GM Brian Guten, how do I even pronounce that? Gutekunst came out and said that the last 10 games are going to be very important for Jordan Love.
And in other news, last night on Halloween, people trick-or-treated.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Packers GM.
All right, let's move on to our injury report. It was a real bad weekend to be a quarterback. In like the span of 30 minutes, we lost 6 of them from the game. It was nuts. The big one, of course, is that Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles on Sunday. He will miss the rest of the season. It didn't look good when it happened. He hopped off on one leg. When they show the replay, there's the very clear sign of like the recoil, and everyone was trying not to speculate. It was non-contact. And he was immediately like declared out and taken away in a cart. Tore his Achilles. Cousins actually has never missed a game due to injury. The only game he ever missed was when he had COVID. So,
which, by the way, that's due to injury. You show up on the. I disagree with that reporting. I don't disagree with you. Because I saw that same report. I disagree with the reporting. That's stupid. Like, if you're going to be that outspoken about COVID and how the vaccines don't matter, like, I know this is like the feel bad for Kirk Cousins time, but no, like, you can't go around saying I've never missed a game due to injury. You did because of COVID, and you're outspoken about how bad the vaccine. Like, you're dumb. But also, I'm sorry that you tore your Achilles. No one should have to deal with that.
Yes, he did undergo a successful surgery. Not with Aaron Rodgers' doctor, in case you're wondering. And actually the day after he tore his Achilles, before he had the surgery, he was out doing like a community outreach. So videos of that came out too. Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill was already ruled out for this week's Thursday night football match against the Steelers, and Will Levis will get the start again. Giants quarterback Tyrod Taylor left at the game with a rib injury and was taken to a local hospital for observation. He did not practice today. Tommy DeVito was filling in, so he's next in line, and we signed Matt Barkley, and Daniel Jones was cleared for
I thought Matt
contact, but
Barkley
is still
retired.
questionable. No, he's still in the league, and now he's on the Giants.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Doing great over here. Rams quarterback Matt Stafford left the game with a thumb injury. He's considered day-to-day. And Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett left the game with a rib injury in the first half. Titans wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins did not practice with a toe injury. I'm noting this because they play Thursday night football. So that is, if it was anyone else who plays on Sunday, not practicing today is not always a bad indicator. But because they play Thursday, he is officially listed as questionable for that game. Falcons wide receiver Drake London left the game with a groin injury. I missed the whole part on the reporting on this. I saw that Patriots wide receiver Kendrick Bourne had exited Sunday's game with a knee injury. He was declared out pretty fast. And I missed the part where he has a torn ACL. So he will be out for the rest of the season. I did not know that until this morning. Here you go. Do you want to announce this one?
Yeah, Darren Waller will miss some time with a hamstring injury and will not play against his former team, the Raiders, this week. Interesting to note that this is not the same hamstring he dealt with injuries with earlier in the season. It is his other one.
Yay.
Do you still think it was a good idea to trade a third-round pick for an injury-prone, aging tight end?
I don't think anything they did was a good idea. And I'm jaded right now, so...
If I cared more, I'd go find the clips. But I just don't care.
It's okay. And then for Falcons defensive tackle Grady Jarrett suffered a torn ACL on Sunday and will miss the rest of the season. There were several other injuries, a lot of did not practices. These are just the big ones. We had a lot of news and stuff, so I wanted to give you the highlights of the injury report, so to say. Anyway, we are on to 15-second frenzy. You want to explain it to us?
Yeah, I get 15 seconds to talk about every game. Where did I put them? There it is. And Ashley's going to tell me when my 15 seconds are up, and I have to move on to the next thing. So, yeah.
Ready?
I was born ready.
Ready, set, go.
Buffalo versus Tampa Bay. That's 3 straight losses for Tampa, with the offense underperforming compared to what they were doing earlier in the season. The run game has been abysmal, and the passing offense needs to figure out how to get more chunk plays through the air. An important win for the Bills, but not really dominant by any means, still with plenty to clean up in the race for the crown of the AFC East. Carolina versus Houston. This feels like a big missed opportunity for Houston, who falls in the wild card race after losing to a previously winless Carolina team. CJ Stroud had the worst outing of his young career so far, but it was far from just his fault. On the other side, Bryce Young had arguably his best outing, coming up clutch down the stretch and making great passes against a good Houston defense.
Next.
Dallas versus the Rams. Stafford's injured, and the Rams are stuck squarely in the middle of good, but probably not truly competitive. Puka continues to shine, but Cooper Kupp has struggled the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys, meanwhile, continue to be absolutely dominant at home. 33 points in the first half, including 9 from the defense. Reminds the league what to be scared of when it comes to this Dallas team. Minnesota versus Green Bay. Just as the Vikings gain momentum in the division and the playoff race at 4-4, they lose Kirk Cousins for the season. Maybe Josh Dobbs can help steal them some wins, but this spells the end of any hope of a true revival this season for the Vikings for me. Green Bay, however, is in an even worse place, losing their 4th straight. The defense has been pretty terrible. New Orleans versus Indianapolis, a big win for the Saints, led by the offense totaling 511 yards and 38 points. While it still doesn't seem that they are operating on all cylinders, it was certainly a step in the right direction for Derek Carr and company. The Colts, meanwhile, are left in limbo without their franchise quarterback, but have looked okay even at 3-5 with a few close games. Miami versus New England. There's a lot of things New England should probably do, but they didn't, leading into the trade deadline. They are 2-6 and have no clear direction after a bad loss to a division rival. Not a lot to be excited for this season. Dolphins rolled a bad team, but got Jalen Ramsey back to bolster a struggling defense. If they can get their O-line healthy, it'll be key to competing for a Super Bowl come playoff time. Jets versus Giants. Pathetic game all around. The Giants had negative passing yards, and the Jets still almost won. The Jets still almost lost. Meanwhile, the Giants looked like a toddler playing Madden and somehow managed to almost win. Good Lord, there's nothing fun about either of these teams right now, and the injuries just keep on mounting.
Next.
Jacksonville versus Pittsburgh. The Jaguars are 6-2 and pulling away with the AFC South, and they're even tied for the best record of the AFC. They are a team that seems to be getting better most weeks, has an easier schedule, and absolutely stands a chance to be in the conversation for the top seed in the AFC. Pittsburgh offense sucks. It's entirely on the defense for them to win games, which is just not something you can count on. Arthur Smith, Tennessee versus Atlanta. Arthur Smith made a surprisingly good decision bringing in Taylor Heineke at quarterback. Somehow they are leading the division and might actually benefit going forward with a real quarterback running the offense. Maybe. Meanwhile, Will Levis might actually be something. He looked great, tossing 4 touchdowns and giving Titans fans an idea of what the future may look like, or at least something to be excited about. Philadelphia versus Washington. One of Jalen Hurts' best performance of his career and easily his best of the season. When Hurts looks like this, any team in the NFL should be scared to face this team, especially when he's got A.J. Brown to throw to. Meanwhile, if Sam Howell played a full season against the Eagles, he could go 0-17, but look like Joe Montana out there and make the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The Eagles failed to get pressure, and the Commanders don't care. They're phoning it in for the season. Seattle versus Cleveland. Seattle took the lead in the NFC West away from the Niners with this win, highlighted by the play of their young corners and defense as a whole. The offense has been steady, if nothing else, but that seems to be the formula that Pete Carroll prefers to win with. They can hang with anybody. Meanwhile, the Browns struggle with P.J. Walker and no Nick Chubb, and their defense has struggled more as of late. Baltimore versus Arizona. Not Lamar's finest day, but it didn't really matter, even with the final score being closer than it was most of the afternoon. The defense had a very strong day, locking up Josh Dobbs and helping Lamar grab the win. The Cardinals continue to sink back to the preseason expectation of ineptitude, not even really looking competitive in their most recent losses, unlike earlier in the season. Denver versus Kansas City. I'm just going to go ahead and chalk this one up to a bad day for the flu-ridden Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. 5 turnovers, including a muffed punt, is going to lead to basically any team losing. Hopefully a vacation to Germany to take on the Dolphins helps them right the ship. The Broncos, meanwhile, win their Super Bowl, snapping a 16-losing game streak to the Chiefs, looking okay. Cincinnati versus San Fran. Since he's back, taking out the team most people pegged as the most complete team in the NFL through the first 5 weeks. The Bengals are healthy, and Joe Burrow looked like his old self, which kept the offense humming. Meanwhile, San Fran has real problems, and they aren't just health. The defense has been getting battered by opposing passing attacks, and Purdy continues to have turnover problems. LA Chargers versus the Chicago Bears. Tyson Baguette made the Chargers pass defense look like the 85 Bears, and their defense allowed Justin Herbert to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns in a bad loss. Chargers use this opportunity to stay alive and get to 3-4, even if they have a tough upcoming schedule. Detroit versus Las Vegas. The loss that led to the firing of Josh McDaniels, rightly so, as the team looked embarrassingly pathetic on national television. Devontae Adams had 1 catch for 11 yards and Jacoby had 1 for 19. They were doing nothing, and it was clear that nobody on the sideline was happy. It was necessary. Meanwhile, I'm going to finish that one. Meanwhile, we're in the midst of a breakout from Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm already angry about how much it won't matter once David Montgomery is healthy again, and they'll give him 20 touches a game.
Yeah.
Got it.
It was a fun week for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
And everyone who has him in fantasy football. I'm glad you had a great week with that. Anything you left out that you want to talk about real quick?
No. If I do think of something, I'll bring it up.
Okay, well, I'll tell you about 2 history things.
2 history things.
2 history things.
Thank
One,
you.
A.J. Brown becomes the first wide receiver in NFL history to have 125 plus receiving yards in 6 straight games. And Will Levis is only the third player in NFL history to throw 4 touchdown passes in their NFL debut. He had 130.5 passer rating, which was the second highest as long as there was a minimum of 25 attempts in an NFL debut. And he had more touchdown passes this week than the Titans had all season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if that's real. If Will Levis is real, and the power of mayonnaise apparently propels him to that. Meanwhile, AJ Brown is uncoverable.
Yeah, it's
like
actually crazy.
He's in contention for best catch of the year right now for me. That stupid sideline end zone catch where like the dude had perfect coverage. Like I don't even know what to say. Benjamin St. Juste, I believe it was. Like he had great coverage, and AJ Brown just one-handed that thing, and then just like it was stupid. It was ridiculous. I didn't think he got 2 feet in, but he did easily. And he made it look simple. And it's like, gosh darn. And you just can't cover him. He does it in every area of the field, all over the place, deep, short. He breaks tackles. There's nothing he can't do. He's, in my opinion, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. So.
I would not really disagree. I think the thing is he's very dynamic. He's good in other aspects that some other top wide receivers struggle at. And so I think that if you're looking at it like weighted, right, you give each aspect of what he's able to do as a receiver a certain amount of weight. I think he is up there, and if not the best wide receiver. I agree. My fantasy football team likes it. My
Scott Fishbowl team loves
it. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. How many points is he getting you in Scott Fishbowl week in and week out with the crazy
ridiculous.
scoring?
He's ridiculous. It's been beautiful.
Yeah. I was telling you before the show, my Scott Fishbowl team is dead in the water. My starting quarterbacks were Anthony Richardson and Kirk Cousins, and my third quarterback was Jimmy Garoppolo. So dead in the water. No starting quarterback this week for me.
Who needs him?
No. I do want to talk about the NFL Players of the Week. That would be for the AFC. Find my show sheet. For the AFC on offense, it's Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow. He was 31 of 17. Wait, was that the score? I think that was the score.
What was the score?
Yeah, that was the score. He completed 87.5% of his passes on 32 attempts. He threw for 283 and rushed for 43. For defense on the AFC, that would be Broncos safety Justin Simmons. I'm trying to pull up his stats. He had a pair of tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery in the Broncos upset over the Chiefs. For special teams, it's Jets punter Thomas Morstead. He was the best player on that field. He punted 11 times, averaged 48.1 yards per punt, 43 net, and 3 of his punts landed in the opposing 5-yard line. He was the best player on that field by
not a high bar.
Long shot. No, not at all. For the NFC, it is your Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He completed 76.3% of his 38 attempts. He had 319 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 135.7 passer rating.
And he did it on a hurt knee.
And he did it with no interceptions, which was the talk of the town for the last few weeks. Yeah. So he did that without any interceptions.
He did have a fumble.
Yes.
On a push. Yeah.
That cost me. For defense, it's Panthers linebacker Frankie Louvu. Let me look it up. 12 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and 2 breakups, and recorded a sack. And on special teams, it's Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey. He scored 11 points. I mean, the Cowboys just scored a bunch, and he kept scoring too. He converted all 5 of his extra point attempts and had a pair of field goals, one of which was a 58-yarder. For this coming week, obviously no one is coming off of bye this week. We had a break from byes during week 8. For week 9, heading into bye is the Broncos coming off of their, like you said, Super Bowl. The Lions, the Jags, and the Niners. So they get a break, and it's a tough week to play fantasy football. Lots of key fantasy football players on those teams. Any thoughts you want to add before we move on to our segment?
Yeah, actually. Only because Jax just responded to me on Twitter about what I posted. Mike Lombardi back in 2021 was quoted saying, while talking about the fact that the Eagles made a mistake hiring Nick Sirianni over Josh McDaniels. There's no way Josh McDaniels is in a room and Nick Sirianni's in the same room and they're talking football and you're going to pick Nick over Josh, Lombardi said. There's just no way. There's no way. It's not even close because I know Josh so well that his level is far exceeding most people. It's embarrassing, mainly because back in 2016, I believe it was. I need to find it real quick. What did he say? He said that Doug Peterson was not a real head coach and one of the least qualified, if not, I believe he said he was the least qualified person to be a head coach in the NFL. Yeah, so here it is. Everyone knows that Doug Peterson isn't a head coach. He might be less qualified to coach a team in the NFL than anyone I've seen in my 30-plus years in the NFL. Mike Lombardi, you are a moron, and you are 0 for 2. If I were you, I would just stop commenting on Eagles head coaching hires because I guarantee you, if he was around back in 1998 when the Eagles hired Andy Reid, he would have said something about that too. Andy Reid, just the quarterbacks coach at the time. So
he loves to throw out like the generalizations, like worst I've ever seen in my 30 years. Throws out a lot of big expressions there. Big
And Jason
expressions
Kelsey
there.
flamed him in front of the entire city of Philadelphia and the world during
Yay.
the Super Bowl parade. He just
Yeah.
went back at it. So
Yep.
that's all I wanted to add.
Okay.
Mainly
Let's
because
move
Josh
on.
McDaniels got fired. That was the reasoning,
Yeah.
to be
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
I think we can all understand now that Nick Sirianni is a good coach, but
Yes. Let's move on to our segment. We're going to talk about the current playoff standings, talk about some teams that surprise us, some teams on the bubble, what we think might change. Do you want to start with the AFC or the NFC?
start with the AFC.
Start with the AFC. All right. So, I'll read numbers like rankings first. So right now in the playoffs are at 1 the Chiefs, then goes the Dolphins, Jaguars, Ravens, Bills, Steelers, Browns. On the bubble, the next 4 are the Jets, Bengals, Texans, and Titans. Anything stand? Where do you want to start with this? We didn't really build how we wanted to talk about it,
but I don't know. I mean, the AFC is very interesting because you've got 4 teams that are 6-2.
Yes, exactly. Each of them are first in their division. The Chiefs currently have a 31% chance of keeping the 1 seed. That is because there's so many 6-2 teams. You'll see the difference when we talk about the Eagles, who have 1 game up on their next opponent. So the Chiefs only have a 31% chance. It kind of seems like this is still all up in the air, whereas the NFC, you can see teams kind of locked into it already, whereas it feels like this order here can be completely rearranged on any given week. Do you agree?
Yeah, especially when if you're looking at total DVOA ranking, which is basically it's defense adjusted value over average. It breaks down every single NFL play and compares the team's performance to a league average baseline based on situation and opponent. Basically, it's kind of like it's a statistic that is used that can kind of judge how good both your offense and your defense are comparatively to the rest of the league. Yeah. 4 of the top 5 teams in total DVOA are Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Miami, with Jacksonville coming in at 7th. Now, it's not the end all be all, but that is pretty incredible. Like, I don't look at any of those teams and say that team is clearly the odd man out, the team that it's kind of like, why are you there? Like a couple weeks ago, the Steelers were there, and it was like, well, that's not going to hold up. I don't know who's going to get the 1 seed. Like, I really think it's a flip of a coin. And on top of that, I'm not convinced that every single one of those teams is still going to be leading their division after 17, 18 weeks. And really, that just applies to the AFC East for the most part.
Yeah, the AFC East. And I do want to just point out, obviously, strength of schedule is not to be taken just in and of itself. And like remaining season strength of schedule changes from week to week, depending on injuries, head coaching changes, scheme changes, things like that. But right now, the Ravens actually have the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL, not even just in the AFC. So their strength of schedule is 0.597. The next is the Bengals at 0.592. The Baltimore faces, crucial in this, the Jags, the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Browns. Those are crucial opponents in this AFC race for the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I'm looking at a different statistic now. It's called EPA, which is expected points added. Basically, it looks at any given play and it says, are you adding or subtracting the amount of points that you're expected? Are you doing better or worse than you would be expected to do on this play comparatively to when it's run? Like if you score a touchdown on a 3rd and 19, that's a major EPA. And that's a major plus EPA. And of those top teams, the only team, no, that's not true. Of those top teams, you've got the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens are all in the top right category, meaning they have positive offensive EPA and positive defensive EPA. The Jaguars are a positive defensive EPA, but a slightly negative offensive EPA, which is kind of surprising. And the Dolphins have the top offensive EPA in the league, but they are slightly negative on the defensive EPA. Again, it just kind of goes to show that like none of these teams are frauds. They're not just winning these games kind of by accident. They're performing well, and the numbers back up the stats.
It's not the 2022 Vikings.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Really, you just said it a lot better than I did with any of my stats or advanced metrics. Like, they're not the 2022 Vikings. They have positive point differentials, which should be expected. But
yeah, and I think something you can really say is while units have had underperforming weeks, these 6-2 teams, it sounds just like so easy to say. Like, it makes sense. They're 6-2, but their offense and their defense have been holding their own. They're being lifted up by both sides of the ball, and I don't think you can say one is costing the other. And I think having a really well-balanced team is paying off very well in this AFC race.
I agree.
Is there anything?
I'm just looking at all these fun charts.
Good.
I'm going to share the screen with you, actually.
Okay.
I'm going to do my best to talk about it too, but this is the EPA thing is something it's kind of new to me, but it basically it looks at all this kind of stuff. So like on offense, you can look at drop back EPA per play and rush EPA per play, basically saying how effective is your passing offense, how effective is your rushing offense. And again, like you see the Miami Dolphins just all the way in the top right corner, which again is the best place to be. Also demonstrated by the bottom left corner being the New York Giants. You've got the Bills up there, not far behind them, being extremely effective in both of them. The Ravens are much more effective in rush EPA per play than they are in drop back, but still positive in both. You've got the Jacksonville Jaguars are at a place that are very bad in rush EPA per play, but positive in drop back. Am I reading that right? Yes, positive in drop back, negative in rush, which is again surprising. But yeah, just very, very interesting stuff. And then defensive, it's the same thing, just kind of backwards. And again, you're going to see the Ravens are very close to the top right. The Jacksonville Jaguars are very close to the top right. I was disconnected from the server apparently, so I'm just going to close that. But yes, I do find all that very interesting, and I agree. Just goes to prove the point that I was trying to make.
I agree, and I think the charts are helpful. Sometimes the numbers you feel like can get convoluted, and just being able to picture it on see it on a chart on an axis helps to kind of back up both of the points we made. My question to you, is there anything here that's super surprising to you that you would, looking back? I mean, we did a prediction show early at the end of the off season. So is there anything here that stands out as surprising to you?
After seeing the Steelers play, I did have them winning the division, or either winning the division or making the playoffs. I don't think they should be doing that. They're not. Their offense is piss poor. They're really, really bad. They're so incredibly bad. If we're looking at offensive DVOA, they are 23rd in the league. And on that chart I was talking about, they are about as far left as you can get when it comes to offensive EPA per play. Like, they're just very bad. Their offense is terrible. Yeah. And like I said in the 15-second, I don't know if I fully got to flesh out the thought, but they are exclusively depending on their defense to win them games, and that is not sustainable.
No,
it's not sustainable. It's working sort of to an extent. The offense is making enough plays, but that's not the kind of thing that leads to sustainable wins. Not in today's NFL. Like, if you're
Steelers fans all week were like, the biggest thing we need is Cam Hayward back. Cam Hayward is coming back. I didn't announce that. From being injured. Yes, but their
defense is going to get better. It's already really good, and it's going to get better.
Absolutely, but you need something on offense.
Yeah,
obviously Cam Hayward coming back is a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing for the Steelers, but it's not going to affect the fact that you have a completely negative offense.
Yeah. Outside of that, like, I mean, I look at the Browns. Obviously, right now I would say that the Bengals will end up ahead of the Steelers and the Browns.
Yeah, so I
The
want to point
Browns
out
are just a
the
mess.
stat I have there. So the Bengals have, if you're looking at numbers, probably the most important game this coming week for them and just of week 9. So they're kind of facing a must-win scenario versus the Bills this week. That has a 32% swing. So if they win the game, there's a 70% chance they make it to playoffs. They have a 38% chance if they lose this game versus the Bills. So huge swing for them, dependent on the outcome of this game versus the Bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
That game is the most crucial, like swing wise. The
I
next is
agree.
Minnesota Vikings, and we'll talk about it after. The Bills have a decent swing too. So with a win, they have an 81% chance of making playoffs, and with a loss, they have a 50% chance. So obviously, still in the better odds of
Yeah.
making the playoffs, but it's still a decent sized swing, and that's going to play a crucial role when you're trying to shore up the 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's the AFC is it's a hellhole right now. I mean, there's just so
Yeah.
many good teams, and it's very nice to not be in the AFC.
Who did you pick as the 1 seed in the AFC in our prediction
I
show? Do you
picked the
remember?
Cincinnati Bengals,
Did you?
which is not aging overly well.
No. I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, you did, which is aging
Did.
better than mine.
I know.
That's
Very
for
excited
sure.
about that. So we'll see about that AFC. Why don't we move on to the NFC? Any last thoughts from you on the AFC?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. So let's move on to the NFC. The Eagles are the only team at 7-1. They are first in the NFC East. They have a 55% current chance of keeping that 1 seed. Again, higher than the Chiefs. Next up, starting at 2, the Lions, then the Seahawks, Falcons, Cowboys, Niners, and Vikings. Sitting on the bubble, looking to make a way in, are the Saints, Bucks, Rams, and Commanders.
Man,
I mean,
man,
it's a lot less exciting.
No, it's significantly. It's significantly less exciting. You want to know what's really exciting though? Yeah, okay, I get it, Abe. The Eagles got the loss by losing to the Jets. It happens. The Chiefs just lost to the Broncos. Like life happens.
How close are we to completing that circle? Do you know the circle I'm talking about?
Oh
Like if
yeah,
this team
where
loses
it's
to this team, loses to this team.
I don't
I want
know
to know
actually.
how close we are.
Now
What is it called?
I don't know,
Is it
the
like a
circle of
parody
life or
circle or
something. I don't
something?
know. Yeah, something
I
like
don't know.
that. But no, a really interesting tweet from Kevin Nagandi over at ESPN. He works on Sports Center. He's also a Temple graduate, I believe, from Philly. According to ESPN Analytics, the Eagles' next 6 games are the toughest 6-game stretch for any team all season.
Okay.
This is
So
something Eagles
specifically
fans
this
have
6.
been, yes. So starting this upcoming week, this is something that Eagles fans have been very aware of since the
Yes.
schedule got released. Maybe not everyone has, but these are the next 6 games, which currently, according to the analytics, is the toughest 6-game stretch of any team this season. Home against the Cowboys, at the Kansas City Chiefs, home against the Bills, home against the Niners, at the Dallas Cowboys, and at the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, we're going to find out what the Philadelphia Eagles are over the 6-game stretch. And in reality, it's the kind of thing where, as a fan, if they come out 3-3, I'm still feeling fine. 4-2, I feel great. It really just depends about how they win, how they lose, who they win, who they lose to. Because not to say it doesn't matter, but losing to the Chiefs and the Bills aren't nearly as important as beating the Cowboys or the Niners or the Seahawks, which currently, obviously, the Cowboys are division opponents, and you need to win the division to get the 1 seed. And right now, the Seahawks and the Niners are both, not far behind that 1 seed. So
yeah. So I was just curious, looking up if this 6-game stretch, where does Philadelphia sit in the overall rest of season strength of schedule? They do sit 12 currently.
Yeah. Because after that,
9 games left to play. Yeah.
it's
So
not bad.
6 of those 9 are tough, and the other 3 are.
If I
2 of them
remember,
are the Giants.
we end the season.
2 of them are the Giants.
We end with Giants, Cardinals, Giants.
Giants
is the end of our season. So
yeah, we get a Eagles Giants Christmas Day. I wanted to come to Philly again, but it's Christmas Day.
So
in
what?
Philly, and then the last game of the season is in MetLife this season.
What would you rather have for Christmas than watching your favorite team get walloped in Philadelphia?
So here's the thing that happened last time, but like we had already made the playoffs that time, and we were playing like third stringers. So I was like, "This is cool. I don't mind it. I don't really want to watch it this season. I don't want to give that away.
You'll still be playing third stringers. They just happen to be your starters.
Yay!
That's so exciting.
Point here about the Detroit Lions, who currently sit at number 2. They have the 29th hardest, so very low down there rest of season schedule. They play the Cowboys, Saints, and Vikings twice, along with the Bears twice, Packers, Broncos, and Chargers. So they have a pretty easy rest of season. So how does that make you, like, I'm not saying it to like provoke you, how does that make you, like, are you comfortable in that position with them being only 1 game back out of the 1 seed?
I mean, I just said what our 6-game stretch is. I can't worry about anybody else. Like, I really can't. And I'm not like, if I'm matching up the Eagles versus the Lions, I'm not scared. So I like the Lions, I think, are a good team, but they're also younger, they're inexperienced. I don't fully buy into what they're doing right now. I do think they're playing really, really well, but also I still think they make a lot of mistakes and they make coaching decisions that I don't totally agree with all the time, which I think can swing things in certain ways. But that being said, they're 6th in total DVOA, 6 in offense, 7 in defense, and they are also in that top right section of the EPA per play, both offense and defense. So they're a good team. And if I had to take a guess, like, the way the Eagles got the 1 seed last year was by having a very easy schedule. You can only play who's on your schedule, and that is going to be important for the Lions because they're 6-2. They're a game back from the 1 seed. And if they win out, there's a really good chance they get the 1 seed because the Eagles have a very tough 6-game stretch. That being said, if I'm the Eagles, I'm just kind of worrying about the 6-game stretch ahead of me. I'm worrying about winning the division before I worry about winning the 1 seed.
I just want to say I pulled up my prediction sheets here. My 1, 2, 3 seed was Eagles, Lions, Seahawks. I had the Eagles at 14-3, the Lions at 12-5, and the Seahawks at 11-6.
I know I had the Seahawks 3. I had the Packers 2, though, and I had the Eagles 1. We both had the Seahawks winning the division, though. We
did, and a lot of people didn't like that. But obviously, the Niners have lost 3 now. 3 in a row. 3 in a row. So their circumstances have completely changed. You could see that they obviously went out and got Chase Young in at the trade deadline.
Yep.
They felt like they needed some sort of spark. Something has gone wrong in the last 3 weeks. When asked about it, their coaches have said the answer is in-house. Like, we can figure it out here. But they now have to battle after sitting super comfortable over the first 5 weeks where they thought they can kind of just coast. So the Niners have a pretty tough rest of season. They're ranked 6th in strength of schedule remaining. Eagles, Ravens, Jags, Seahawks twice, Cardinals, Rams, Washington, and the Bucs. They rank 6th, like I said. So they cannot feel that comfortable currently with being right at the edge of playoffs. I think it does help that the rest of the NFC is not nearly as competitive. And I'll think a lot of where this kind of turnover is going to come is seeing where the Vikings end up. Like you said in 15-Second Frenzy, we kind of are stuck in limbo right now, waiting to see how it's going to work with Josh Dobbs at the head of the offense and seeing really how it's going to work without Kirk. Will the team flow the same way? I mean, Kirk not only was just the quarterback, he was a huge leader. Yeah. He was the face of the Minnesota Vikings. So it's a huge blow, and that can go one of 2 ways. Things come crumbling down, or they fight like hell for Kirk Cousins. So
That's probably not gonna happen.
yeah, we'll see. But I think that's going to be our biggest like point to watch in this NFC. Again, I like the race for one is, you know, the Eagles, Lions, that kind of stuff. But I think that is going to be our biggest like catalyst here for change in the NFC playoff standings. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that the biggest catalyst is going to be the NFC West. It's the Seahawks and it's the Niners. I think either like that. I feel like there's at least one division like this all year, every year. Last year it was the NFC East, where whoever doesn't win that division, whoever wins it is going to be the 1 seed, and whoever doesn't win it will be the 5 seed. You can go from having a first round bye to not even having a home playoff game. And that's really how I feel like the outcome could be for the NFC West with both the Seahawks and the Niners. And yeah, theoretically, it could be that way for the Eagles and the Cowboys too, because the Cowboys also have 5 wins.
But I also want to say though, like just towards the end, you have another one. I just want to point out the NFC South. While the Falcons hold it the number 1 right now, I'm not saying it's going to be a huge catalyst for change, but it's just going to matchup wise for the future. Currently, of the Falcons at 4 and Falcons and Saints at 4-4, and the Bucks at 3-4. Not worried about the Panthers, but those 3 are all within 1 game of each other, if not 0 games of each other. So that all season has been going back and forth between who holds the 1, 2, and 3. So that just keep an eye on that for who's gonna get that spot out of the NFC South.
Yeah, I don't know who it's gonna be. I don't believe in any of those teams.
Who did you have? I'm curious. The Saints, right? You had the Saints.
Yeah, I had the Saints.
I had the Bucks.
Yeah, I did not have the Bucks. I think if I had to pick one team right now, it would probably be the Bucks. I guess, but they've been on a skid.
They've been on a downturn, but they've been, I feel like, the most consistent in who they are, I guess.
Oh no, I think the Falcons have been the most consistently pissing me off.
Yeah, there you go.
And winning games in spite of their head coach and his decisions. I think they've been extremely consistent. They just get more lucky some weeks than others.
Like, did you see the pass from Jonnu Smith to
it's
Michael
stupid.
Pruitt for a touchdown that they tried?
Who was blocking? Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
He's stupid. Arthur Smith is stupid, and he should lose his job. He should have been the first head coach hired after that passing play.
Not hired.
I meant fired.
You said hired.
Yeah, and he's so goddamn smug about it. That's what pisses me off. Is he's so freaking smug. He's like, what did he say? Talking about like toxic. Oh my God, what did he say? When people were talking about Desmond Ridder like being bad, toxic groupthink. Yeah,
missed that one.
Yeah, this was let me see. I want to see if I can find the actual quote. Oh my God, everyone's just making fun of it. I'm trying to find the actual quote. Basically, the point of it is people that hate Desmond Ridder and think that he should be benched because he's playing bad is toxic groupthink.
Duncan, tell me what happened in that game.
He got benched. That's the thing. He gave in to the toxic groupthink because Desmond Ridder shouldn't have been playing. Not when you and that's the thing. I understand why you have to play Desmond Ridder. I get it. I truly understand it. You need to figure out what you have in him. I agree with that. But don't be such a smug asshole about it.
Yeah.
It's just
that's my issue with him. Like,
no, that is my issue.
I never pretend I know more than an NFL coach.
I do. I pretend it all
on my
time.
Best day. I couldn't.
When I hate them, I pretend I know more. Joe Judge definitely know more than him.
Do we have put the counter up? The I hate. I'm
not. I'm not sneaking it, so I can have more room to punt. Stupid idiot Joe Judge.
In your own.
God, he was a moron.
But that is my issue. I don't care. Like the choices he makes are the choices he makes. Whatever. It's just the fact that he always gets in front of a microphone and is like, "You don't know anything. I don't really care what you think. Like I'm so much smarter than you are." And like again, like I'm sure you are when it comes to football. It's your job. But like you don't need to. I don't like. general people don't need to be reminded of that. And we talked about this last week about having to try and keep a fan base. We should move on. Anything else you want to talk about for
I hate
the
Arthur
NFC
Smith.
playoff?
I
Do we
hate
need to
Arthur
change
Smith.
the counter to I heart? This is
Yeah,
like a once a week thing,
I
so we can get rid of I hate Joe Judge.
him. He's such a dick. And
I
it's
know.
it's not hard to just not be a dick. It's just not that hard. Like, I have issues with tons of coaches in the league because they constantly make bad decisions. I'm not saying that I know more than them, but they make bad decisions. And when they pretend that they're not, that's when I have an issue.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera does them Riverboat Ron seemingly does them every week. He had one against the Eagles this past week, and I forget what it was, but it really, like, in the moment. Oh, he didn't challenge the Devonta Smith call, and then he was complaining
Yes.
about it. And it's just like, dude, everyone, like, just it's such a it was 4th and like 6 or something. You throw it, and like, what's the worst case scenario? Like, okay, you lose your challenge. When is save everything in the 2-minute warning gets automatically reviewed? You cannot use your challenge. That was such a game turning moment. It's just so stupid that you didn't. And I hate when they make these decisions. And he didn't defend it or anything, but it's frustrating. But yeah, Arthur Smith is just like constantly talking down to everyone in the media, the fans. Like, how can anyone want to root for that guy? There's nothing likable about him at all.
No.
And it's not like he's good at it. Like, Bill Belichick can get away with it, but even he doesn't talk down to people in the way that Arthur Smith does. That's the thing. He was more than happy to go on a 20-minute talk about, it was some like punting thing, or why they shouldn't have punters and kickers as the same person on the roster. He went on like a 20-minute thing because someone, like, he's not talking down.
No, he's
that's one of the
genuinely
greatest.
doing his best to try and educate. Like, sometimes it comes off a little bit like maybe a little tone deaf, or
And
like,
sometimes he doesn't want to answer. Fine.
yeah, and that's fine. But a lot of times he generally he just has that like blank expression face. So it's you can take it the wrong way, but he's genuinely just trying to teach you. Like, he will very much in-depth explain decisions.
Arthur Smith just calls you a moron. And he says fantasy players aren't going to be happy about this. Well, guess who's not going to be happy about it? Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, if they're not getting the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. I'm good.
Yes, we should move on.
I
really
hate
quickly, anything you're specifically like keeping an eye on or very interested in seeing in this NFC playoff race? The Eagles.
Yeah, most of the Eagles. I want to see specifically if Chase Young can be the first player to ever lose to the Eagles 4 times in a single season.
I saw that, and it's one season. Yeah.
Yeah, because we play the Niners later in the season, and then if we play them in the playoffs and beat them both times, he would lose 4 times. And I just think that's awesome. 4 times
to one team. Yeah,
exactly.
That is official, by the way, as of like 2 minutes ago. He passed his physicals, and Washington posted their goodbyes, so he is officially a Niner. Anyway, any last thoughts at all before I wrap up?
Yeah, I can finally watch basketball and be happy again. I know no one cares, but I do. So,
very happy for you.
So long, James Harden. You were real. You were a liar, and you promised you would never pull out. So, did you see that the second sign? He had a woman hold up a sign that says Daryl Morey is a liar, and then the other sign was like, "I'll never pull out." And it's like, James, that's not it, James. Also, the video of him entering the locker room for the Clippers was maybe the most awkward thing I've ever watched. Really uncomfortable. Highly recommend watching it. But more than happy to enjoy a season of basketball for the first time in a long time. So,
yeah. Well, that is a wrap for the Undroppables Playbook. At least on, like, it's a wrap for Playbook, but Duncan and I will be heading to another podcast. Duncan, where are we going tonight?
We are heading, well, we're going to be like at the same spot. Like, I'm going to be sitting here, and I think it's going to be streaming to the same places, but we're going over to DFS Docket, hosted by our man Abe and also Marcus, with the Undroppables. And yeah, we're going to join them. We're going to be talking a little Halloween stuff, and then, some fantasy MVPs, late round sleepers, giving out some awards. But yeah, we're going to be talking some fantasy stuff. So feel free to check the Undroppables Twitter and our YouTube, and we'll be live not long after this ends. So, yeah. Yes.
And you could find Duncan on Twitter at MPDuncan75. You could find him live Sunday mornings on the Start Sit show on the FF Discord channel. You can follow me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's in Ashley. You could find all of our content with the Undroppables live here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday nights. And you can listen back to the Undroppables Playbook wherever you get your podcasts. We thank you for joining us. We hope you join us over on DFS Talk It, and we hope you have a wonderful night and a great week 9 of football. Bye,
Go Birds.
everyone. Bye.